Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another A Die Hard and a Gentleman podcast. My name is Tyler Fornes, and we're going to talk about a few things today. First off, we're going to talk about the Conor McGregor-Floyd Mayweather fight. Now, after watching it for a second time, there were a couple things that were very clear to me. Conor McGregor looked like he belonged. Now, obviously, I'm a very pro-McGregor person, and I was cheering for him in the fight, and I even predicted him to win the fight. But there were a couple things that really stood out to me. One, when you looked at the numbers at the end of the fight, Conor McGregor in 9.5 rounds, let's be honest, 9 rounds that he actually threw punches, he landed 111. 29 more than one of the greatest boxers of our generation, Manny Pacquiao, landed on him. That's a big number. For a guy that has never stepped into a professional boxing match, that's very, very impressive against anybody of high caliber, not to mention probably the best pound-for-pound fighter to ever live. Now, second thing that was very impressive, he looked like a world-class boxer. He wasn't perfect. Some of his technical prowess was not quite there, but he utilized angles extremely well. He landed Floyd with a couple flush uppercuts and honestly won at least 3 of those rounds, according to many people. Even the Showtime guy, his name escapes me at the moment, but he had him winning 5 rounds, I believe, and losing the fight 86-85. Now, the last thing, I mean, he wasn't perfect. Nobody's ever going to say that. His inexperience did show. Floyd was leaning up on his chest, and Conor really didn't have a response. He wasn't throwing uppercuts. He wasn't trying shots for the body or anything. He just kept using the hammer fist, which is the MMA background, and we kind of expected it. A lot of people thought that he would utilize leg kicks, but 90% of his purse would have gone to Floyd if he got disqualified for any MMA moves. And let's be honest, money speaks large volumes. Conor looked like he belonged, and we're probably never going to see Conor McGregor in boxing ever again. He's going to go back to UFC. He's probably going to get the Nate Diaz trilogy, and that is going to be huge money for everyone involved. Now, second point, everybody keeps talking about Colin Kaepernick. Luckily, with everything that's been going on in the past week, cut down days and stuff, the talk has subsided a little bit. But everybody is still wondering why he is not on a roster. Look, nobody's going to argue. Gentleman is very talented. He was literally 6 inches away from the Niners winning the Super Bowl against the Ravens. All right, that Crabtree catches that pass in the corner of the end zone, that's game over. The next year, they were a touchdown away from getting back to the Super Bowl. All right, it was a Richard Sherman tip pass that was intercepted by Malcolm Smith. What are you going to do? All right, the guy has a lot of talent. They ruined him by trying to make him a pure pocket passer rather than just let him be himself. All right, that happens to a lot of people. You try and focus on something that's not you, and you kind of lose some of that spark. Your focus isn't quite there, and you're not playing within yourself. Him not playing within himself kind of led to his downfall. Harbaugh leaving, other coaches coming in, didn't help either, because that consistency with Harbaugh and Roman was initially why he had such a good start to his career. Now, he made the decision to opt out of his contract. He could have stayed $12 million a year, played for the Niners, but he chose that he wanted a different situation. No, there are very few people I know that would argue that his protest wasn't worthwhile. If he was on my team, I would fully support him. He was doing it in the right ways. He was being very respectful, and he was living up to what his protest was. He had donated over $1 million of his own money to his cause. Great. That's fantastic. Good for him. And you know what? When the guy's on your team, you can back it. All right? But the biggest problem is he's a free agent now. Owners are looking at it in a business perspective. Okay? His talent does not match the distraction that he will bring in, which is one of the main reasons why Tim Tebow doesn't have a job. Tim Tebow was qualified to be on an NFL roster. Whether you think it was an NFL quarterback is a whole different scenario, but he was good enough to be on an NFL roster. But the media circus, front office personnel and head coaches just don't want it. If the media circus does not match the talent, they don't want the talent around. Now, if the whole Tom Brady fiasco with Deflategate, there was a media circus. But guess what? Tom Brady is probably, in my opinion, the best quarterback that has ever played the game. It's worth the media circus. All right, for a while, Everywhere T.O. had been, he was worth the media circus because of the talent. The talent outweighed the negative distraction that he brought in. Colin Kaepernick just does not have that kind of talent to outweigh the distraction that he has. All right? Personally, if I were an NFL GM, I don't touch Colin Kaepernick. He is fighting against oppression. He is anti-cop, pro-Black Lives Matter. The problem is supporting Fidel Castro is the exact opposite effect, because Fidel Castro is one of the largest oppressors in human history, and especially in the 20th century. How can you support a man who is extremely oppressive but be against oppression? That doesn't make any sense to me. I don't want a gentleman like that on my football team. That's why I would never sign Colin Kaepernick. But then again, I'm not an NFL GM, so that doesn't matter. All right, on to the next topic. We're going to talk about fantasy football bold predictions for the season. All right, I've done a lot of research. I've completed 10 plus drafts myself, and this is kind of what I'm seeing, and this is kind of everything that I've come across in my research. First one is Marcus Mariota is going to be a top 5 fantasy quarterback this season. I'm trying to take him in every draft that I can because of his extreme talent. Now, he has an absolutely loaded offensive line. They have done a really good job getting pieces for that. All right. They have an elite running game, DeMarco Murray and Derrick Henry. And DeMarco Murray, if you look at his fantasy numbers last year, he was easily a top 10 running back when people thought he was done because the Eagles just shipped him off for peanuts. All right. Derrick Henry is going to come in this year also. At the end of last year, he played really well. He's going to give them a really nice 1-2 punch to complement what is going to become a very good passing game. They drafted Corey Davis, who's a very elite route runner. He's also very fast with good hands. Not to mention Eric Decker just signed with the team. Rashard Matthews is a good player, and Delaney Walker is coming one of the better tight end seasons from last year. And Marcus Mariota also has the ability to run the football. He's very accurate, and he's intelligent. Those aspects and attributes are going to affect his season stats, which I believe are going to make him a top 5 fantasy quarterback. Now, second thing, Terrell Pryor will solidify his status as a wide receiver 1 this season. Now, last year was his first full year as a wide receiver, and he had 77 catches for over 1,000 yards. Now, that's crazy. He played for the Browns. Listen to the guys that were throwing him the football. Cody Kessler, Josh McCown, Kevin Hogan, RG3. None of those are elite or even close to competent starters in the National Football League. Okay? He goes to an offense with Kirk Cousins, who the last 2 years has proved himself to be a top 10 fantasy quarterback, and he's going to be able to eat up a lot of the targets left over by Pierre Garçon and Deshaun Jackson. 40 to 50% of those were geared towards those two players. He's going to have a lot of opportunity. He's going to be opposite Josh Doxson. He's going to have Jordan Reed, and they're not going to have a great running game, so they're going to be whipping the ball all over the field. He is one guy to really watch out to grow and become that wide receiver 1. All right. Next up, neither Devontae Freeman nor Tevin Coleman will perform up to their average draft position. Now, the average draft position of both of these guys, Freeman is going around 10 in the back half of the first round, and Tevin Coleman is going in around 6. Now, they aren't bad players, and they won't be bad fantasy players, but from where they're drafted, they are not going to live up to their billing. Now, Devontae Freeman is not going to be a top 10 running back, in my opinion. They lost Kyle Shanahan. One thing that he really liked to do is utilize 2 backs, run a lot of sweeps, run a lot of screens and those kind of plays, swing passes to make sure that we got the ball in those guys' hands in space. He's not there anymore. We don't know what exactly the new offensive coordinator is going to bring in that aspect. Not to mention, Devontae Freeman has been hurt a couple times in his career. Also, so has Tevin Coleman. Now, that offense is going to come back down to earth a little bit, because if you take a look at Matt Ryan's career, take the best and the worst season he ever had, he's an average quarterback. It's good. I don't believe that you should be drafting those guys high. If you can get Coleman in the 8th round, that's a great value. If you can get Devontae Freeman at the end of the 2nd, take him. Those are going to be good places to draft those guys, but you don't want to take them at the end of round 1 or round 6. You're going to overpay for the name and pass production rather than this season. Now, last but not least, Martavis Bryant, if he stays out of trouble, he will easily have a top 15 wide receiver season, maybe even a top 10. Now, some of the stats, looking at this guy, he's just dynamite. One, he's going to be opposite the best receiver in football, so he's going to get a lot of open views. All right, he's not going to have double coverage a lot. He's not going to have the number one corner on him. But in the 21 games that he's played, he has 76 catches for over 1,300 yards and 16 touchdowns. In his rookie season, he had 10 touchdowns on 26 catches. Now, the only real good sample size we have was in 2015 when he played 11 games, 50 catches, 765 yards, and 6 touchdowns. The guy has elite talent. If he can stay on the field without being suspended for marijuana or steroids, he's going to be a very, very good player. He's going to bring you huge return on that 6th round ADP right now. So Martavis Bryant is the guy I'm trying to take in every one of my leagues for that fact. Plus, when you have Ben Roethlisberger at home, there really doesn't get much better as far as fantasy quarterback. He's dynamite. It's just on the road you got to worry about him. All right, guys, that's all I have for you today. As you can tell, I'm rocking my Florida Gator jersey. Not even that brutal loss to Michigan can bring me down. A lot of good college football this season. Pro football starts up, and we're going to have a lot more for you on those subjects coming up here in the coming weeks. If you have any questions, comments, please drop me a line and let us know what you think. Thanks, guys.